Needless Things Podcast. Hey, Phantomaniacs! Welcome to the newest episode of the Needless Things Podcast, where we talk about toys, movies, music, and all manner of pop culture dorkery. I am your host, Dave, and we're going to see what this intro ends up being this week. I haven't prepared anything. I just got off of 6 consecutive 12-hour shifts, and my brain is mush. It really is. I have one day off, and then I go back for 2 more shifts, and I'm doing this way without really any notes or anything else because this is WrestleMania week. I want to get this episode put together. I want to get it done. I want to get it up because it's an awesome conversation with a guy who is an expert on toys, on food, and has a little... We don't get as much into wrestling as I thought we would, but that's because the toys and the food were such fascinating topics for both of us. Today on the show, this week's episode is Joe Shoes. If you're a fan, as I am, of the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, you've probably seen Joe here and there in Major Wrestling Figure Podcast stuff. And he is, the story here is that he's the guy that kind of lit the fire under me to buy Snake Mountain. Now, there's a lot more to talk about than just that. But that's kind of the key moment where I was like, you know, I kind of like to talk to this guy. And then as time went on, another thing came up here and there. His Instagram is great. His YouTube channel is great. So you need to follow this guy. We drop, you can find the links in the show notes. We talk about it during the, as I call it, meat of the episode. But Joe's awesome. He's great. He's going to be back on very soon for another episode, probably coming next month. It's really going to depend on what Walmart does with their shipping. But this is a fun episode. You're going to like it. And it's appropriate because we talk a little bit about his presence in FWF Live, which is a production of the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. But it's not figures. It is an actual wrestling pay-per-view featuring Brian Myers and Matt Cardona, and basically just a bunch of the people that they've worked with over the years, friends of theirs. So this event goes live, or I guess went live, Thursday night, last night, April the 8th. But you can order it for the next, I believe, week, through April the 15th. You go to Patreon, FWF Live, and they have different packages where you can order just the pay-per-view. You can get this merchandise bundle that includes, if you're into them, I'm not, and yet I'm going to end up with a couple here just because, micro brawlers, which are little wrestling figures, but this one is exclusive to this. So the only way you can get it is in this merch bundle. They've got pins. It's all exclusive merchandise that if you don't want it, you're going to be able to flip it like on eBay or whatever, or trade it for wrestling figures or whatever you're going to do. But anyway, Joe is in a match on FWF Live. It's a 4-way match. We talk about it on the episode, but just check out Patreon, FWF Live, and that's how you can watch this pay-per-view that our new friend Joe is going to be part of in his alter ego of, okay, wait, it's Yokozuna, but I wonder why it's not Jokoshuna. But that's maybe too much. Well, then there's joke at the beginning, and you don't want... this is a serious match, you guys. The stakes are high in this 4-way match, so there's no joking to be had. So, yeah, our new pal Yokozuna will be in this match. So anyway... That's check that out. That's available now as you're hearing this. And I think it's going to be... Obviously, I'm a big fan of Cardona and Myers, but their combination of charm and talent and humor, I think, is going to make this one of the most memorable things of this WrestleMania week. And that brings me to why I'm sitting here Tuesday, my one day off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, putting this together, which is a very unusual time for me to be producing an episode of the podcast, is because there's stuff going on every other night this week. Well, every night. Tonight is the Hall of Fame. I can't remember if Impact moves tonight or moves this week or next week. And then obviously Wednesday and Thursday night is NXT TakeOver. Friday night is SmackDown. Wednesday is also AEW. And then Saturday and Sunday are WrestleMania. Like every night this week, I'm going to be sitting watching wrestling. So this episode needed to get in the can, you guys. And then there's other stuff going on too. Friday, Hasbro Pulse has some kind of big event where hopefully they're going to announce that all of the awful Target exclusive Cobra Island figures are going to be available in the main line in different versions like they did with the Cobra Trooper. We need the Viper, we need Firefly, we need Baroness. We don't have Baroness in the main line. It's ridiculous. And I got to tell you right now, I am finding, and if you want more about G.I. Joe, please check out Audible Interlude, a G.I. Joe podcast, available wherever you get your podcast. It's in the Needless Things feed, so you're probably getting it anyway. But I'm getting so much more joy right now out of collecting vintage Joes than I am out of the Classified series that I won't do it, but I'm thinking about doing it, just dumping the Classified, because the releases are so slow. This Cobra Island thing is so frustrating. And really, even just the mainline stuff, your choices, you can't even choose to look for them in stores because they're not there. And your other option is to pre-order them online, usually for a markup, unless you get them from Hasbro Pulse and you're willing to wait like 3 or 4 extra months to get them. Collecting Classified series is almost as frustrating as trying to collect the 2002 Masters of the Universe line. I don't think it's quite as bad, but it's pretty bad. And yes, they're if you're on top of things, they're readily available online. But again, I don't know. It's the way that I'm having to collect this line is very unappealing to me. So anyway, that's where we're at there. The Hasbro Pulse they're going to be announcing Marvel Legends, probably this Infinity Saga line. I'm sure they're going to show the Disney Plus wave, the Shang-Chi wave, lots of stuff coming out of there. Unfortunately, we seem to know about a lot of it already. Even I, who don't really dig too deep. Like, if I'm giving you guys news, it's probably something I've read from Toy Arc or whatever, where I think, well, I looked at this, maybe the listeners didn't all see it. But I don't do a whole lot of digging. Like, I don't go to those websites that have, like, the UPCs and the shipping information for what Star Wars figures, which, by the way, Black Series and Vintage Collection also will probably be part of this Pulse event. I don't track those websites of, like, the cases of Boba Fett are in the country now. Like, I'm not that deep. But, I see sites that are that deep. Anyway. So Hasbro Pulse event is happening Friday, so that's another thing on my schedule. I go in Monday for my second Pfizer vaccination shot. I'm very excited about that. I'm still, in general, feeling good. The beginning of the year was extremely frustrating and difficult for me, and while coming off of 6 days in a row is pretty tough, it's not the worst thing that's happened to me this year, so I'm, going to enjoy my day off here, work a couple more days, and then have some more time off. And we you got to keep getting by. You got to keep looking ahead to when things are going to... it's hard to look ahead and know for sure things are going to be better, but things are going to be different. You're going to have different things to worry about that will be stressing you out. And won't that be nice that this thing is done and now you have a new thing to focus your poor, tortured brain on? Still keeping up the DDP yoga. I'm feeling absolutely fantastic from that. You guys, I can't put it over enough. My aches and my pains are gone. As I've talked about, the weight loss hasn't quite been what I was expecting, but I mean, I am in better shape, and just getting up every day, like when I stand up out of a chair, I don't put my hands down on the armrests and push myself up like an old person. I just stand right up. I can squat and get back up, and just the mobility and the lack of pain when I get up in the morning that I didn't even realize, last year when I started this, just over a year ago, I knew I was uncomfortable, but I didn't realize how much I had grown accustomed to my discomfort until it started to go away, and I started living every day without those aching joints and like my ankles and my hips hurting and my back constantly in danger of going out on me. Just the difference in quality of life alone is worth it. So you guys find something to make your life a little bit better, whether it's DDP yoga, whether it's maybe cutting out the Reese's peanut butter cups every once in a while, maybe it's just waking up in the morning and trying to have a different outlook on how things are going to go that day. I don't know. Find one thing that makes your life better. Maybe it's taking all of your G.I. Joe classified figures, putting them up on eBay, and not even thinking about that line anymore, and just focusing on the vintage stuff. Because when I look at my 80s Real American Hero figures, it brings me joy every single time. There's that whole lady who was like, get rid of anything that doesn't bring you joy, which is, I appreciate the thought, but they're different levels of joy, lady, okay? But out of everything that's down here in the Phantom Zone, and I keep getting asked to do a tour on YouTube, on the Needless Things YouTube channel, where you can find toy reviews twice a week, if not more. I keep getting asked to do a tour of the Phantom Zone, and it's on the list. It's a to-do project, but it's going to take more than just walking around filming it. It's really something I'm going to have to plan for. But when I look at that collection, genuinely, I stop, I look at it, I'm happy, I'm joyful. It brings me joy looking at those figures in that collection. So yeah, maybe change something that you're focused on and drop something that isn't giving you everything you want. That could be a collection, that could be something you're working on, that could be an entire human being that you realize, like, you know what? Why is this person in my life? They don't bring me joy, and dump that fucker to the curb. So anyway, that's what you get when I don't plan an intro. Now it's time. Everybody sit back and look. I mentioned diet, weight, whatever. But sometimes you got to treat yourself. And I think right now is one of those times where maybe you want to go get a flamethrower burger from Dairy Queen. Maybe you want a Baconator. I don't know what your favorite burger is, but maybe you want to go grab that decadent, fat, juicy burger, sit back with a nice big soda, and listen to me and my new pal Joe Shoes just talking about everything on the newest episode of the Needless Things podcast. Joining me tonight to talk about toys, to talk about food, to talk about wrestling, please welcome to the Needless Things podcast for the first time ever, Mr. Joe Shoes.
All right. I like that intro.
I like to give a little razzle dazzle on it.
I like it.
So where we're going to start is when I get somebody new on the show, I like to kind of begin with like, well, how the heck do I know you? Where did I meet you? Why do I know you? And this one is a little weird because the first time I ever heard your name was Brian Myers. We all know we're fans of the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. Brian Myers mentioned that you were doing this eating challenge, a McDonald's food challenge. I think it was live on YouTube.
Yes.
And it was, okay, I want to try and remember what it was. Was it like 2 double cheeseburgers, 20 McNugget?
There was this thing going around Twitter. It was just like a meme, like some rich guy with nothing better to do had posted this picture of just like a whole smorgasbord of McDonald's nonsense. And he's like, you have 90 minutes to eat this. And if you do, you get $3,000. Can you do it? And I believe it was Tommy Boy from Massachusetts was like, hey, you should do this. You could do this. And I had been doing like food reviewed videos on YouTube for a while, like just to entertain myself, really. Especially during quarantine, I had nothing to do.
Right. And before we get any further, plug your channel.
Yeah, so it's youtube.com/Joe Shoes, and it's the majority of just me eating different fast food items and giving reviews. Every now and then I'll try to do some weird challenge, and then just to entertain myself as well. It's just a channel about me, so it's things I like. So it's also me doing some unboxing videos and getting some vintage figures in and opening them up, and just it's just me being me and entertaining myself for the most part. It's not necessarily big, but I have a good time doing it, so I just keep doing it. And
those are the best channels to me. I really love, I love stuff like Pixel Dan and his sort of professional reviews and stuff like that. But I also love just like, here's this guy and the stuff he does.
Yeah,
that's fascinating to me.
I have like a kind of a weird life. Like I've had my fingers in a lot of things. I'm always trying different things. I once called myself the Judy Hopps of just like life, because I want to try everything. So, I wanted to be a baseball writer at one point. So I became a blogger. I'm actually a member of the Internet Baseball Writers Association of America. I was a professional wrestler for about 15 years. I like toys, so I play with toys. It's just, if you want to do something, I'm of full belief, like, go ahead and do it. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And that's, I've been a wrestling announcer. I've hosted game shows. I've same kind of thing. Like, if there's something I want to try and I have the opportunity to try it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, you only get one shot at life, right? Like, so why not? Yeah, enjoy yourself, and as long as you're not hurting anyone or doing anything nefarious behind the scenes, like, go ahead, man, shoot your shot.
And sometimes that fun involves eating a shit ton of McDonald's.
Yeah, so the Twitter challenge was out, and it was like we were about a month into quarantine, or like 3 weeks into quarantine at that point, so everyone was sitting around doing nothing, and it was 3 double quarter pounders, a regular quarter pounder, 2 large fries, I think 20 nuggets, and 4 sodas. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, well, at first I didn't think they were quarter pounders. I thought it was McDoubles because it didn't have it listed. It was just a picture of just all this food.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, 4 McDoubles? Like, yeah, no problem. Like, whatever. And that came to bite me in the butt afterwards. But I decided, I was like, hey, I have the YouTube channel and I'll go live with it. And maybe, like, give people something to do. And interaction is always fun. I mean, you're a podcast host, so whenever you get any kind of feedback and any kind of back and forth, it's pretty cool and pretty fun. And Brian, I always feel weird about like posting my own ventures in the major wrestling figure podcast group, because
I'm same way.
Like, it's not my forum, and a lot of times it's not like toy related, so I feel like it's not even topical to the group.
Yeah.
So I don't really do that a lot. But then Brian Brian was like so hyped for this, and he's like, him and Papa Bear Paul and Tommy Boy were like 3 of like the biggest people, like, oh my God, you have to do this. And then Brian put it in the group, and all of a sudden I had this like flood of major marks who came into the room and were like cheering me on. So at one point, I want to say there was close to about like 80 people watching me live doing it. And I got to the very end, had 1 soda to go.
Oh my gosh.
And then I hit a wall. I just hit a wall, and all of a sudden I started feeling like it felt like there was just a concrete block in my stomach, and there was nowhere else to put anything. And I had watched, like, I did like tape study on these challenges. So I was on YouTube like the night before, like getting myself hyped and in the zone, watching other people do it. And the majority of people that I watched do it didn't even come remotely close, but they were trying to do things like stack fries on the burger. And when you do stuff like that, because I've done some challenges in the past, at one point I was wrestling as the Revolting Blob, and I got a booking for a 4th of July like festival in Myrtle Beach to do a cupcake eating competition with former Major League Baseball All-Star Reggie Sanders.
Oh my gosh.
And when you try to do too much, you actually like kind of psych yourself out, and you trick your body into when you start chewing too long, you take bigger bites, you're chewing too long, and now you feel a lot fuller than you do normally. So I knew not to like try to overdo it. And my strategy was get the burgers out of the way first. Once I get the burgers out of the way, I felt like that was going to be the hardest part. And I felt like once I got that out of the way, I could pretty much be home free. And I didn't think the sodas were going to be a problem because I'm a big soda guy. I love soda.
Now, is this straight up like Coca-Cola?
It was just 4 medium Cokes.
Oh gosh.
And the issue that I had, this is what came to like do me in, was to make sure that I had the food in time. By the time I was supposed to go live on YouTube, I ordered a little bit early, thinking it would take, maybe like 45 minutes or an hour for the food to show up,
Yeah.
Because how often do you order food? And it always takes forever. Like, it's never like quick.
Yeah, it's never right there.
And especially I'm ordering a lot of food.
Yeah.
This stuff came in 15 minutes.
Oh no.
So the food had been sitting there for about an hour. And what I hadn't planned on was all the ice in the sodas had melted by the time I got to it. So whereas I thought the ice was going to be my saving grace because I wouldn't be drinking like a full 22 ounces of each soda.
Right.
Now it's number one, it's watered down soda, which was bad.
Oh.
And number two, now I'm drinking the full amount of liquid for each soda.
And it's not like as crisp and cool and refreshing. No. It's just like, oh.
So I get to that last soda. I'm about halfway through and I just stop. It was like the red light went on and I'm just squirming. I'm selling big time. And I'm just like, all of a sudden I grab my bucket and I just start puking like a madman right on camera. And it's funny, like Brian tells the story now, that was the day WWE made a bunch of roster cuts. And I had heard earlier in the day that they were about to, fire some people. And instinctively, I knew I had a pretty good feeling Brian was going to be one of them. And I knew he was watching. And as it's going on, I start getting text messages going, hey, your boy just got fired. Oh. So this man is going through, is one of my buddies, my good friends, and he's getting fired from his dream job while he watches his buddy's shoes just gorge on McDonald's. And he tells the story that by the end of it, when I start throwing up, and his wife was pregnant still at the time, she was laughing so hard that she actually peed her pants.
Oh man. See, and that's that, because there had to be, you say you hit a wall, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I've never done competitive eating, but I had years ago at work, there's this one guy we got at work who'll make bets on anything.
Oh, absolutely. There's always someone.
I give you $1 if you can do that. I bet you can't do that. I give you $15. Like, just anything.
Yeah.
And he bet me that I couldn't eat, and I want to say it was 4 king size Reese's Fast Breaks.
Okay.
I believe that's what it was. And he put a time limit on it. I think he gave me like 5 minutes. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
And because I can put food away.
Yeah.
So it was going to be, he bought the Fast Breaks and was going to give me like $25 if I did it. So something like that, along those lines. And I got halfway through that last one, and you when you said you hit a wall, dude, it was so rich and chocolatey and like,
and you start tasting every molecule of everything.
And that's a dense candy bar too. And then I look up and I'm like sweating. I'm just like, oh, this isn't pleasant, but it's only like 2 minutes in. So I've got plenty of time, but I really feel like, I don't know if I can do that. I just don't, like you said, don't have anywhere to put this rich junk. Good. But I look up and I see his face, and he realizes that I'm going to do it. And he's cheap too. Stingy motherfucker. So I look up and I'm like, That's what I needed. And I finished off that last one. I got it down, and he was just miserable, so mad. Because in his mind, this was like an unsurmountable task. So man, when you said you hit the wall, I was like, I know that wall. Ugh.
Yeah, it just, like I said, it felt like there was just like a cinder block in my stomach. And eventually, like, like when it rains and you're just pouring water out on the ground, and it's got to go somewhere.
There's just nowhere to go. It's just,
so it had to. And the thing was too, the time limit for this was 90 minutes. That's a long time. And I want to say maybe I was about 35 minutes in, and all I had left was the soda.
But then time doesn't even.
And at that point, because the thing too is like people are always like, "Oh no, you got to pace yourself," and no, you don't want to pace yourself.
No, but because that's
that then you
want to get it down before your stomach realizes you're full.
100%.
What is it, like 15 minutes between eating and your stomach realizing something like that?
Yeah. So like the whole thing is like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to get it down, like gorge and be sloppy about it.
No.
But just keep a good pace, get it all down. And like I said, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, I'm at the end. All I have left is sodas. But then, oh man, it's just the dusty finish right there.
So yeah. So having said that, though, you're a performer.
Yeah.
So once you realized that it was over, did you turn it up a little bit?
No, you know what? I don't know if I turned it up. I feel like I'm a big comedy fan, like a big Chevy Chase fan, like sitcom fan. Like I grew up on all the regular 80s sitcoms that everybody else did. So I always felt like I have a good sense of comedic timing, that it comes naturally.
Yeah.
So with stuff like that, I never feel the need to turn it up. I sometimes feel like just being me is enough. I try to be as authentic as possible with whatever I'm doing. And it's just in that moment, like I know it's coming and I'm trying to fight it because I'm all I have left is this half a soda. Like you're going to a half a soda, like really? And then like, I know it and I grab it. I start puking into the bucket. It's gross. And I just turn around and I look at the camera and I'm like, hey.
So it's not about turning it up. It's about letting it go.
Yeah. It's just, and the funny thing is like, having like failed in that fashion was actually probably better for my brand, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Because had I finished it, everyone just would have been like, "Oh, cool, he
did
finished that." Yeah,
move on.
Yeah. But after that, what I was seeing, I was getting tagged in a lot of pictures on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter where people were screen capping me throwing up. People were making GIFs out of it. People were clipping it and posting it everywhere. And I was like, wow, this actually has been a lot better for me than had I finished. So,
yeah.
In that regard, it was good. It helped me get a bunch of new subscribers and stuff that day. So, if I have to start puking every time, then, that's a road we may have to travel down at some point.
He's gonna puke.
There was someone layered the audio over that where I'm like heaving a little bit and you see it's coming and he's gonna.
That's awesome. So that was my the first time I was like, who's this Joe Shoes guy?
Yeah.
And then every once in a while you'd come up on the podcast or whatever. But then the big moment where you made a difference in my life was Boozing with the Toys.
Episode 1, yes.
Episode 1. You're there in Orlando, hanging out with the guys. And for our listeners who may not know what that is, if you're a member of the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Patreon, they do a special event monthly where Myers and Cardona and all kinds of other guests will just hang out and booze it up, talk toys, buy toys, just hang out. It's like hanging out with your buddies, except two of them happen to be, big wrestling guys.
Yeah.
So you're hanging out there and you said something about the Super 7 Snake Mountain. I don't remember if you said you were going to pre-order it or you had pre-ordered it or you were thinking I don't remember exactly what the prompt was.
So the thing with me was I had never I never dipped my toes into Masters of the Universe Classics. I'm a huge Masters fan. But when the Classics line started, I was very much not in a position financially to be able to get involved.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know myself well enough to know that even if I said, oh, I'm just going to buy He-Man, Skeletor, and the original 8 or something. If I said something like that, it wouldn't last.
Yeah.
And then I'd feel, basically pot committed to have to subscribe and get every figure.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the decision early on to never dip my toes in those waters. As time went on, years went by, I was in a little bit of a better place, but I still never went back and did anything with the Classics. But then Snake Mountain came along. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, wow, like this has the potential to be absolutely insane. And when Super 7 released the price point on it, I want to say like their price point was like 600 and then an additional 100 for shipping.
I think it was, I think you're right. I think it was like 750 total.
Like total out the door.
Right. Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, you know what? But before they released the price on it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy 2. I'll have 1 to keep and then maybe 1 to flip. That way it'll pay for the one I want. Now,
right.
That was my thought process. Then I saw the price come out and I was like, "Whoo, boy, I am not ready to play in these waters." So I didn't get it. And this really is the thing that just changed my mindset on collecting as a whole, because this was 2 years before the actual playset itself started shipping.
Yeah.
So we really hadn't seen any hard pictures of what this thing is going to look like outside of design release photos.
Well, Mattel even showed some of the Horsemen's design work before Super 7 even got into making the Masters of the Universe stuff. Like we saw hints of this even longer ago than that.
Yeah, but like at that point, you still didn't know what you were getting.
No,
and the $100 for shipping. I know it wasn't just me. That blew everyone away. Like, are you kidding? $100 for shipping? Like,
well, here's the thing that kind of killed it for me initially, because I was Classics got me because of exactly what you said. I wasn't going to do Classics at first because Masters of the Universe, like I grew up with it, but I had like Triclops and like 3 other figures and that was it. Because G.I. Joe was my thing.
Okay.
I had a few He-Man figures and I'd like play with them at my friend's house, but Masters wasn't like my big deal. So when Classics came around, I was like, that's really awesome, but I wasn't super compelled to get into it. But then they showed Scare Glow.
Oh,
and I'm a sucker for a glow-in-the-dark skeleton wearing a purple cape. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get that Scare Glow. That's it. I'm getting him, and I'm out. And that was, I was...
and then the floodgates open.
It was over, because at the time, if you remember, they would do the deal where, like, every month they put up the new figure, but then you could order older figures at the time. Like, they weren't just constantly available.
Yes.
So, like, Scare Glow would go up, and then they'd also have Beastman and He-Man, and you'd have, like, 2 days to buy them. And
correct.
They'd shut off again. So I got my hands on that Scare Glow, and I was like, dude, this is awesome. I cannot believe how cool this figure is. And then, like, the next month, they offered Skeletor again, because he had already been offered.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next month, they put him up again, and I was like, well, I need to get a Skeletor.
Yeah, he's Skeletor. Yeah, you gotta have him.
Of course.
But then if you get a Skeletor, well, now I need a He-Man.
I gotta have a He-Man.
Now I need a Man-at-Arms. And if I get a Man-at-Arms, now I need a Trapjaw. And if I get a Trapjaw, now I need an Evelyn. But if I got Evelyn, I need a Teela.
That's exactly what happened. And before I knew it, I'm subbed up. I'm committed. I'm doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
I've got Castle. All of a sudden, I've got Castle Grayskull. I never even had the original Castle Grayskull when I was a kid, and I've got this Classics Castle Grayskull. So I'm all in on Classics. Snake Mountain gets offered, and like you said, it's just too much. Especially, I've got the sail barge, for Hasbro. and the shipping was included in the sail barge price. Now, granted, they're very different toys, very different projects.
Yes.
Different levels of, way more people bought the sail barge than bought Snake Mountain. That's just a fact.
Absolutely.
Just is. But unfortunately for Snake Mountain, it was announced in the wake of the sail barge.
Correct.
So even though as toy collectors we know better, we can't help but compare things like that.
Absolutely.
And so that was a little bit of what got me too. But then months later or a year later, whenever it was, here's Joe Shoes hanging out on Boozing with the Toys, talking about how badass Snake Mountain is. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sitting here. I got a little bit extra hold up. I'm looking at two wrestlers I greatly admire who are getting drunk and talking about toys. Maybe it's time to make a big boy purchase.
Loved it. Loved it.
So I shot Mark Sterling a message and said, I think I'm about ready to spend $1,000 on a toy. What do you think about that? And he pretty quickly brought me on. So live on Boozing with the Toys, I bought my Snake Mountain because you convinced me that it was going to be a big hole in the collection, because you had said something about like, this is a centerpiece, this is an important piece of toy history, something along those lines. It is.
I really do believe that.
And
I think as collectors and as He-Man collectors, and if you're collecting the classics, I think we all vastly underestimated the presence of the Snake Mountain playset.
Oh yeah, dude.
Because it wasn't until Super 7 released a couple of photos of like the finished project where all of a sudden everybody started scurrying like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't get this. Why didn't I get this? Why didn't I order this? All right, I know it was $100 shipping. I know the price was high, but like, oh my God, look at this. I didn't expect this. No one expected it to be that massive. No one expected it to be as detailed as it was. And then when those pictures started coming out, it felt like the rats running from the Titanic, because we all had to go get Snake Mountain and no one knew what to do anymore.
Well, and it was funny because after the pre-orders closed from Super 7, which for the listeners, if you're considering getting things from Super 7, just go ahead, pull the trigger, order directly from Super 7.
100%.
You're going to get it sooner. If there are any QC issues, or if anything happens like with the Thundercats where there are parts, you're going to get your stuff first. You're going to get taken care of. And if you get it and you're like, you know what, I shouldn't have gotten this, you can flip it and make money back.
Absolutely. And that was the thing that turned me, because I had pre-ordered some stuff from Super 7 in the past when they were doing like the Filmation style He-Man figures at the time. So I had pre-ordered a couple of those items at one point. And the thing that always killed me with Super 7 was just the length of time it would take from pre-order to when it would actually show up on your doorstep. And that really was what turned me off to the pre-order model from Super 7 at the time. And I was like, you know what? If I want anything, I'd rather just wait till it's out and then just pay a couple extra bucks on eBay. That way I order it, I have it, in like a decent amount of time. And Snake Mountain changed all of that. And I know it wasn't just for me, because then it became an absolute matter of supply and demand. Then you couldn't get it. And right off the bat, before a lot of people's orders had even started shipping, you were looking at $1,200 on eBay to pick up this piece now. And it was like, holy smokes.
Because it sat, once Super 7 closed their orders, it sat on Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store for months, just available for their prices. And Entertainment Earth even had it for less than Super 7 shipped.
Yeah. And that was, so when you bought yours, now I felt pressure to do it, because I hadn't gotten it. And when they first started releasing those photos and everyone was going nuts, Brian had hit me up and he's like, bro, you call yourself a He-Man collector and you didn't get this? Because I always call Brian the worst friend I've ever had, because he will just like antagonize me to be like, oh, like you say you're a collector and you don't have this. Why don't you have this? You should buy this. Like, and that was like one of those things where like he was on me the whole time. Like, how did you not order this? What's wrong with you? Why wouldn't you order this? And then you bought yours, and Brian's sitting next to me going, do it, get it. And I'm like, I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. I couldn't bring myself to pull the trigger. And I'm like, you know what? It's not meant to be. I didn't have any classics. It really wouldn't make sense for me to have this. Yeah. But I mean, this thing is impressive. And I talked myself out of it that day. And then like a week later, I guess Entertainment Earth had people that canceled their orders, their pre-orders.
Yeah.
So they had more come back into stock. And I just happened to be scrolling through Twitter as they tweeted about it like 45 seconds before, just as I was going. I was like, that's figure fate, man. I got to do it. And then I ended up getting it for a really good price, and it showed up at my door. And so I'm the proud owner of a Snake Mountain Super 7 now.
Well, and what's awesome about it is even though maybe you don't have the classics, but it scales so well with the Origins figures.
It does.
Like really, that was the first thing I did when I got my Origins figures, was just put them all over that Snake Mountain because they look so good with it. Because it's just that bigger scale with them on it.
Yeah, it was an ambitious idea, and for the way they pulled it off, I mean, it is magnificent. It really is.
Well, it is in the literal like center place of the room under the TV, and every time I walk in here, I just take a moment and I'm like, thank you, Joe Shoes.
Yeah, I'm glad I could help.
So, all right, we've talked a little bit about toys. We talked a little bit about food. And you know what? Actually, I want to go back to food because I do not often have the opportunity to talk about how much I love fast food.
Oh, it's the best.
I've been in the major fitness challenge for the past year, so I don't eat a whole lot of fast food anymore. But dude, I'm going to tell you right now, I could eat nothing but fast food every day. I could eat McDonald's twice a day. Easily. I love their cheeseburgers, their double quarter pounder, their French fries, dude, all of it. I love it. And it's so like, I could never go to like what a fancy restaurant. I never need to go to one ever again. I can go to Wendy's and McDonald's and Hardee's and whatever. And I know like societally, people will not admit out loud anything along those lines, but I think secretly most people are like, yeah, that would be fine.
Oh, I think so. I think the thing with me too is, so I always had poor eating habits from when I was a kid. Both my parents worked multiple jobs, so a lot of times when it came to dinner, it was like, okay, we're ordering a pizza because it was quick, it was easy, and both of them worked two jobs or and then had to shuttle me to practice or a school function or whatever it was. So it was like, all right, we're picking up Happy Meals for everybody, and you know that was just it. And so I never really had nutritionary discipline like ever.
Right.
So to me, it's like almost second nature to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna grab a Big Mac combo tonight, or you know, you know what, give me a Big Mac combo and 2 McChickens and give me an extra fries too. Like, you know, like why not? Like, so, let's go nuts.
I want to break it down. I want to decide. I want to hear from you. Fast food wise, best burger, best chicken sandwich. Best is not the right word, because honestly, I don't even really believe in the concept of best. I believe in the concept of favorite.
Yes.
Like anybody can talk about
it's all subjective.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So favorite fast food burger for you. Like if there was one burger that you were like, this is the one I'm going to have to stick with.
Okay. Favorite fast food burger. The burger I find to be tougher than anything, because it's just, there are so many different styles of burger where it's like, okay, do you go like a classic, like a McDonald's cheeseburger? Is that, you know, maybe it's the best of like the basic cheeseburgers.
Right.
But like, what about it, like a more dressed up burger? Like, do you get something like a Western bacon cheeseburger from Hardee's, you know, something with a little more razzle dazzle on it? I think for a burger, and like this might be a category unto itself. I love a White Castle slider. Now,
this is where our regional differences come in. I'm in Georgia.
Okay. So you're a Crystals guy.
Just out. Right. Exactly. And I haven't had Crystal in years because Crystal for me growing up was go out, you party, Crystal's open at 2
And it was your drunk food at the end of the night. Absolutely.
Yes.
That was White Castle with us.
Like, I don't think I've ever even had Crystal when I was sober.
Yeah.
But it's for that end of the night, 4 a.m. party food. It's Crystal, man.
Absolutely.
But is like basic cheeseburger wise. So if we're talking the basic, like not bottom, but like you go into Wendy's and you just ask for a cheeseburger, or McDonald's or whatever. I'll tell you right now, I don't think anything can beat the McDonald's cheeseburger.
Oh, I see. I that would not be at the top of my list.
Really? Okay.
I would have Burger King above them. I would have Wendy's above them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm trying to think. In-N-Out. I think In-N-Out is a good cheeseburger.
Never even seen one.
Yeah. Whenever I travel, whenever I'm somewhere, I'm always Googling, okay, where can I eat? Where can I eat?
Yeah.
And so like In-N-Out was something I had heard about for years. And then finally I was out on the West Coast, and I think I was in San Diego, and I was like, all right, we got to go have In-N-Out. And I've heard all about the double and the animal style, this and whatever. In-N-Out was a good burger. Their fries are absolute trash.
Oh,
they are probably, they're just like, I mean, it's like eating cardboard.
Oh,
they are the absolute worst things I have ever put in my mouth. And that says a lot. And you can take that to mean anything you want. In-N-Out fries are trash.
Wow. Okay. So I'm trying to think of the word. Okay. My worst French fries to me that I've had anyway are Wendy's old French fries.
Really?
Not the current ones I say current, they probably introduced them like 15 years ago, but
I want to say it was about 10 years ago.
Was it about 10? Okay.
Yeah, they made like a big deal. It was like the new cut with the sea salt. And
yeah, which I love those. They're not my favorite fries, but I love them. But yeah, Wendy's old fries. I didn't even get fries when I went to Wendy's, and that's insane because I cannot go have a fast food meal without fries.
No, it's like part of the whole experience.
Yes.
You get a burger and fries or sandwich and fries. Yeah. I'll tell you what, my favorite fries, and these do not get the respect they deserve. Nathan's crinkle cut fries. They are just stupendous.
Well, okay, Nathan's isn't that's Carl's. I was thinking Nathan's was the Hardee's offshoot, but that's
Nathan's
Carl's.
is the hot dog place.
Oh, okay. Again, don't even have it here. Interesting. Wow. Okay, so I go back and forth depending on what's the last thing I had, because my two contenders are Arby's curly fries.
Okay.
And Checkers fries.
Okay.
Love Checkers fries, but Arby's curly fries sometimes, if they're not done, are horrible. Like it's like raw potato with like the seasoning on it. So if the last time I had Arby's curly fries, one of them wasn't done, they're not my favorite.
Yeah, obviously they take a step down the ladder.
Yeah.
I didn't have Arby's a lot as a kid. I actually just had Arby's the other day. I've been doing a whole series of chicken sandwich reviews lately. I know.
I
don't know what got into me. It was just I saw that McDonald's had put out a bunch of new chicken sandwiches, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go order all of them, and then put a video. And then the next day I was like, oh, you know what? Like Burger King has a new chicken sandwich, and this person has a chicken sandwich. And then I had never had the Popeyes spicy chicken sandwich, because when it came out and it was causing all that big hullabaloo, people were getting murked from standing online. Like people were getting mugged for chicken sandwiches. Right. And I can see you could see me. Like, I'm cute. Like, I can't afford to get beat up over a chicken sandwich.
You can't get that moneymaker messed up.
No, absolutely not. Like, so I had to bide my time until it was safe to go to the Popeyes. And then when I finally did, that thing was outstanding.
Really? It's that good. Okay, so I am a huge fan, because typically if I'm going to a fast food place, I'm getting a burger. It's really hard for me to get anything else. Like I want a burger. Like, I don't want a chicken sandwich. I don't want a fish sandwich. I don't want whatever else. But I'm a huge fan of Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich.
Oh my God. That was when that was introduced. And I want to say it was the early 90s when that first came out. That felt like, oh my God, boys, we did it. We made it to the future. We have a spicy chicken sandwich.
Dude, it was to the point where I would choose that over Chick-fil-A. And I love a Chick-fil-A.
See, I didn't have, I grew up in New York. I live in Florida now. So I've been down here for a while and I get the Chick-fil-A,
right.
Loyalty now.
Yeah.
But like at the time, I'd never heard of Chick-fil-A. And when like the Wendy's thing, I mean, that was like, and Wendy's wasn't like everywhere. So like you kind of had to go out of your way to get a Wendy's.
So it was like an occasion.
It was almost like you had to do good on a test or something. Like and my mom would reward me with a spicy chicken sandwich. And then, but that thing, like for the time, that was a game changer. And,
and it was Wendy's. Another thing about Wendy's, the old Wendy's, the Wendy's that had the French fries I couldn't stand. They also used to put way too much mayonnaise on everything.
Really?
That was when I was a kid, I never wanted, because I'm not a fan of mayonnaise. Okay. I like a little bit of it on that spicy chicken sandwich. Other than that, I can pretty much do without mayonnaise entirely in my life. But when I was a kid, that was the big reason I never wanted, because my dad was a Wendy's guy. That's all he wanted. But they would just glop it on there to the point where you pick the burger or whatever up and
it's all like,
just too much. See, and that might have been a local thing. I don't know.
Yeah. When I was a kid, like obviously McDonald's was number one, and still is, but Roy Rogers was a big thing. Roy Rogers felt like it was right up there with Burger King for number 2 at the time.
Oh, wow.
And every now and then, like Burger King would come out with, like I remember they did like a Thundercats promotion. You get like special Thundercats cups and they had little toys in their kids meals.
Wow.
So like, yeah, like that was, like then I'd be like, Mom, you don't understand. We have to go to Burger King like now. Like, but Roy Rogers, it just felt like from my memories, and I know like obviously this is biased because it's based off my memory and my nostalgia. Roy Rogers and McDonald's always felt like they were everywhere. So having Roy Rogers, I loved the roast beef sandwich, and they had the double R bar burger, which was just a regular burger with like ham and like it was just it wasn't like anything too ridiculous. But it just like it stuck out. So Roy Rogers was a big thing to me. And speaking of fries too, they were the first ones I remember that had curly fries. So you could have the option of having regular like steak cut fries or curly fries. And when they introduced like those spicy curly fries, I was like, holy smokes. Like, I can't believe we live in a time this advanced.
Dude, curly fries are so awesome because they're delicious. They're fun.
Yeah.
Like they're just fun to eat. And you get the box of the curly fries. And you got a couple sitting on top that are just like a C. You get a couple that are like a full O.
When you get the one that's the full spiral.
Oh man.
Unbelievable.
It's the best. And you're like,
the thing with Roy Rogers too was they put their fry box was shaped like a gun holster.
What?
Because yes.
That's awesome.
Because Roy Rogers was a cowboy.
Right.
So it actually even had this like the belt loop where you could like put it on your belt and just like pick fries off your waist. So like as a kid, like who doesn't want a gun holster full of French fries?
Best. Oh my gosh. I'm Googling Roy Rogers. I'm familiar with it, but again, we don't have them down here.
So when the boys did, when the Major Pod did Live 6 in Baltimore, that was back in November. I was going to make the trip. And the first thing I thought of when they announced it, I'm like, wait a minute, Baltimore. I think there's a Roy Rogers in Baltimore. So the day of their live show, they were like going over everything. And they're like, and I said to them, I was like, hey, you guys need me for anything? And they're like, no, we're good. Like, why? You going to the gym or something? I'm like, no, I'm about to go take a 40-minute drive to Roy Rogers. Like, so I'll be back. And like, I remember like just looking at me like, is he serious? And like, I picked up my camera, went to Roy Rogers and like filmed myself in the parking lot. Just, I ordered every sandwich I could remember, the double R bar burger, the roast beef sandwich, and then the Gold Rush chicken sandwich, which is spectacular. If you could ever get a Gold Rush chicken sandwich from Roy Rogers, I highly recommend it.
So they're having this event at this place. This was the one at the seafood place, right?
That's correct. Jimmy's Seafood.
So Jimmy's Seafood, this renowned seafood place that everybody loves, and you're like, yeah, but I got to get to Roy Rogers.
Well, we actually, the night before, we went out for dinner at Jimmy's. So then the day of, we're going back to Jimmy's, but I'm like,
you gotta have lunch.
I gotta have lunch and second lunch. But I'm like, that's great. Like, I'm going to Jimmy's. I know I'll be there, but like, I don't know when the next time I'll get Roy Rogers is, because there's very few of them left. And the majority of them that at least I know of are like at highway rest stops. If you're in the Northeast, like I know there's one at like the Jersey Turnpike, right when you get into Jersey from New York. Then if you're going further north, there's one on your way, like right as you enter Massachusetts. But other than that, there's like no real standalone Roy Rogers restaurants. So I had the opportunity. I was like, I have to seize this while I can.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. If you're traveling, man, you got to take it all in. This is the dumb thing me and my dad did. When I graduated high school, my parents took me on a trip to Europe. Not like, hey, you're going with some of your friends to Europe, but we as a family are going to Europe. Which was awesome.
Like there was no stops at Club Vandersex when you're with your parents.
No, we went to Amsterdam, but we did not see Amsterdam.
Yeah. It says free T-shirt with flyer.
Yeah. So my dad and I, though, made a point of eating at a McDonald's in every country that we went to.
I went to Italy like as a high school trip. I think I was like junior, and that was like the first thing I did was go to Italian McDonald's.
You gotta see it. You gotta know.
And the only thing I ordered, because it was the only thing I could pronounce on the menu, was large fries. So I went up and I was like, I can't pronounce cheeseburger. I don't want to sound like an idiot. I can't pronounce chicken. I don't want to sound like an idiot. This girl behind the counter is kind of cute. I don't want her to think less of me. So I was like, I'll just order multiple large fries. And so I'd go up there and be like, due patatine grande per piacere.
Did they have, I think it's Italy. Did they have Beverly? Isn't that the Italian soda? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do not know what that is. When I was there, it was Coca-Cola. Like that hasn't changed. But the other big soda was Fanta, orange Fanta.
Okay. I may be wrong that it's Italian, but there is a soda produced by the Coca-Cola company called Beverly.
Oh, I got to look into this.
And here in Atlanta, we've got the World of Coke.
Yes.
It's like a museum you go to and you see the history of Coca-Cola, but then at the end, they have Cokes from around the world, like all these different products that are made in different countries. So there's like ginger Coke and all this crazy stuff. And I believe Beverly is Italian and it tastes like a household cleaner. But it's like wherever it's from, if it's not Italy, and I apologize to our Italian listeners if I'm wrong. I'm sure there are lots of you out there.
Tons.
But it's like the biggest soda in whatever country it's from, and it's the worst thing I've ever had. It's absolutely revolting. It's like drinking.
No, you're right. It is Italy.
Okay. That's what I thought. So yeah, Beverly. If you ever have the opportunity to taste test Beverly, don't.
I'm looking at the logo and stuff now. I've never even seen. So now I feel like I have to.
It's crazy.
And this is on the same day where Pepsi announced that they're going to be making a Peeps flavored soda.
Oh, gosh, I saw that. Oh, dude. The
amount of people that messaged me, slid into my DMs, or whatever the case may be, the amount of people that took time out of their day today to message me and say, hey, will you be making a video about this Peeps flavored Pepsi, has completely like caused me to pause and like reevaluate my existence.
No, you got to get it now. That's like you said, that's your brand.
The only problem with this is it's not like going to be a retail release or anything.
It's going to be tough to get.
Win it through a giveaway. And
oh gosh. Well, you got to try. And if you get it, you've got to do a setup where you have like 6 cans of that and like 3 boxes of Peeps.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. You got to make this happen. Oh, man.
Yeah, I have to at this point. Whenever anyone like sends me a request or like, hey, what do you think of this? I feel like a like I owe it to them to go out and try it if I haven't already. You know, if you're going to support me and support what I'm doing and take an interest in it, then the least I could do is give you the type of content you want, right? Like,
of course,
it's not like I'm not going to eat lunch anyway.
And that's the thing, is all of its content.
Yeah.
If even one person wants to see it, chances are a few more people want to see it too.
Yeah, and that's what I'm finding out, and it's fun. It's fun for me to do, and I'm like, even last week I did a live stream where I tried out the Pizza Hut Detroit style pizzas.
Yeah,
and I not like I had an overwhelming audience, but I had an active audience, people who were chatting, back and forth. So we had like a really good time with it, and all that stuff is just fun, especially in a time where it's been a year and a lot of us still don't want to go out or don't feel comfortable or whatever the case is, so to have something to do, and it basically is like hanging out. Like I haven't seen some family in over a year. I haven't seen a lot of my close friends in over a year, but I get to hop online and eat pizza and basically have dinner with a bunch of strangers who are chatting back and forth about the benefits of meat pizza or extra cheese, so it makes for a good time.
Well, and everything you do like that, even if you don't, and this is something I have to tell myself constantly, even if I don't get the downloads I think I'm going to get, or I don't get the response I think I'm going to get, everything is another little piece of product, of something that you've made, something that you've done. Like it all accumulates. So at the end of the day, you're like, you know what? I've accomplished something.
It's funny. I shouldn't say it's funny, but you're 100% right. And when I look at stuff, like even like me eating a chicken sandwich, well, you know what? I took the time to set up my lights. I took the time to film it. I took the time to edit it, make sure my audio was good, make a thumbnail image that could go on the YouTube. Like this is all stuff I had to learn. I had to learn how to edit video like on my own, just because when you do something, you have a specific vision in mind for how you want it to look or how you want it to sound. And I want to do stuff to the best of my ability. If I had a podcast for about 4 years, which was just like general pop culture. And it wasn't like, I think maybe we were doing about 100 or 150 downloads a week, which was cool. But obviously, like, I'm not getting rich off that. But there's a certain quality of audio that I needed to have for myself, even if no one listened to it.
Yeah.
If I'm going to put it out, because I know how I am when I listen to podcasts. And if someone tells me to listen to a podcast and I do, and like right off the bat, the audio's bad, or it sounds like you're in a garage with an echo, or I'm shutting it off. Yep. So just something as simple as that, like I needed to have for myself, where it's something I can be proud of, that like, hey, I did this, and not be embarrassed to show my friends, or, my mom watches my eating videos. She doesn't get them. Like she sits there and she goes, I cannot believe people will watch this. People just have so much time on their hands that they will just sit there and watch you eat. And I'm like, well, I'm quite entertaining at eating.
That's great.
But it is, anytime you create something, anytime you do something, you want to be proud of it. And, for lack of a better term, like each and every one of those videos is, like a little child. And whenever I get some kind of feedback or someone leaves a comment, and, like I love like going in and responding to that comment and having that person follow me on Twitter or whatever and starting a conversation. Like I said today, even with that Pepsi Peep soda, I was getting messages from people I know, but there were a lot of people who I've never met before. And that's where I feel like I'm kind of growing a little bit, and obviously it helps, to have an association with the major pod guys, because people find out about me because I have a famous friend, for lack of a better term. But more people have been, hitting up my socials and following my YouTube. And for those people who are entertained by that stuff, like it's very cool for me. So it motivates me more to keep producing stuff.
Well, and the famous friend thing is great, but you've got something to offer, so people are sticking around. Like a famous friend doesn't do you any good if you don't have a hook yourself. So that's it right there. And you've got people saying it's peep soda, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that stuff's so affirming. Like when you get that random person that's like, hey, are you going to do this? And you're like, I don't even know who this guy is, but yeah, I'm going to do that.
You know what? And it's just that validation that, you know what, like I'm okay. Like, you know, maybe I'm not getting a million views, but I'm doing okay. And even like when I was still actively wrestling, like I got to do a lot of really cool stuff in wrestling that when I first started out seemed like pipe dreams. You know, got to wrestle guys who I used to pay money to go see. And like my favorite wrestler of all time was the Honky Tonk Man from when I was a kid, and I got to wrestle the Honky Tonk Man. Like that's the kind of stuff like I never thought was possible. And then even a few years back, I wasn't really wrestling that much, but I got booked on a show in Tampa and Scott Hall was there, and Scott Hall was watching all the matches and like running, like he almost acting like an agent. Like he was really into the show and giving guys feedback and stuff. And after my match, he was already talking to the guy I had wrestled, and like I come through the curtain and he grabs me and he looks at that guy and he goes, the problem you made was you didn't listen more to him because he is great. And I'm like, this is Scott Hall, one of the most influential people in the history of the wrestling business when you really break it down.
Yeah.
You know, with the jump to WCW and the contracts and all that stuff. Like we're talking about one of the most influential people in the business. And he just told me I'm great. Like, and it's just like, you know what? I'm not going to be on WrestleMania tomorrow, but like Scott Hall thinks I'm great.
And that's what you got. You got to take moments like that and appreciate them for what they are.
Absolutely.
You can't sit and think like, oh, I wish I was doing this, or I wish this would happen for me, or whatever. You got to take those great things like that, which granted, Scott Hall telling you you're great is pretty great.
I mean, it was, and then I took him out for karaoke.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I sang Jump in the Line by Harry Belafonte from Beetlejuice.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's like my go-to karaoke tune.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And then, so it was me, Scott, my buddy Pete Cool, and then another wrestler named Damian Darling from New Jersey. And Damian and Scott were cool. So that's why Scott was kind of hanging out with us. And as I'm up there singing karaoke, and I had a broken rib. I broke my rib in that match that night. So like I could barely breathe and whatever, but I'm like, yo, I'm going out to karaoke with Scott Hall. Like I'll go to the hospital later. So I'm singing my song and like I have a decent stage presence at local karaoke bars, at least. And even then, Scott looked over to my boy Damian, and Damian told me this story later. He was so pissed because Scott put me over instead of him. But Scott looks at Damian and goes, yo, this kid is a star.
That's
and I, awesome. Like, you know, it's like one of those 6 to midnight moments. Like, yeah, Scott Hall, like, said I'm a star. Like, this is great.
That's awesome, man. Oh, that's great. And see, that's if you don't say yes to things, if you don't get out there and just try stuff out, things like you're going to miss out on things like that.
No, so many people are hamstrung by the fear of failure. And I get it, because even when I was younger, like something as simple as like talking to a girl or like trying to ask someone out on a date, like that could be terrifying, because if they say no, like they're actively choosing, like, no, like you're not good enough. You're not what I like. You're, you know, and no one wants to be told that, you know, like you're not good enough, right? You apply for a job and you don't get that. Maybe you really wanted that job. Maybe it was a dream job and you don't get it. Or, you know, like you don't even get an interview and you're like, wow, like what is it about me that's wrong? But if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't try, like nothing can ever happen. Like, you know, you're basically disregarding yourself. You know, you're not giving yourself that opportunity to do anything that you enjoy doing or that you want to enjoy doing.
Well, that's what until probably, let's see, until I was almost 30, I didn't get that. I was definitely that guy hamstrung by fear. I never wanted to hear no. I never wanted to be turned down for, like, I couldn't even handle the idea that I wouldn't like succeed or you know, whether it was a girl or a job or whatever.
Absolutely. There's almost like an internal panic attack
Yes.
where it becomes almost acceptable to, like, you take it upon yourself and you say, you know what, I'm okay with not doing this, because then it means like they can't tell me no.
It's better to avoid.
Yeah, it's better to not know than to be turned down.
And finally, eventually I got to the point where I realized, you know what, it's not that I'm not good enough, it's that I'm not what that person wants.
Yeah.
But there are lots of other people, there are lots of other things, and you just gotta be, I don't know. I read this article years ago about this guy who had his kids not constantly, but like when they went out, he would specifically have his kids go ask for things they knew they wouldn't get. Like, go to McDonald's and say, hey, can I have that cheeseburger for free? And obviously they're going to say no. Like, he put his kids in situations where
to take them out of the comfort zone.
Right. And so they would get used to hearing no, so it wouldn't be such a terrifying thing for them. Because that for me, that was it. Like, hearing no was just like, oh, fuck, I just failed. I screwed up. What did I do wrong? It was like almost like the Chris Farley, like, I'm worthless. You know what I mean? And it took a long time for me to get out of that. And I hate the thought that anybody is stuck there. And I know so many people are.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to say the big thing for me, and I never really had it that bad where I was afraid to do anything, but there were different situations where I would feel comfortable. And there were other situations where I definitely did not. And whenever I meet someone, I always say, like, I'm an acquired taste. Like, no one really likes me upon meeting me. I guess I can come off very standoffish. I have like the resting bitch face thing going. But like, if you don't know me, like, I don't feel comfortable really opening up right away. And that's something I've had to work on. But the thing that really helped me was being in pro wrestling, because you can't go out there and be an introvert and expect a crowd to get behind you.
Right.
And when I started wrestling, my name was just L Shoes. It was my nickname in high school. And really, I was just being myself. And then around 2008, I switched to a character called Maximus Sex Power. And the gimmick was that I was a fat, ravishing Rick Rude. And I came out in trunks and a fake mink robe, and I would do the whole unveiling and the hip swivel and all that. And the name Maximus Sex Power came from, well, a company had asked me, to do like a Buddy Rose type gimmick, and they said, we want you to change your name. And I couldn't think of a name, but then I remembered that when Homer Simpson wanted to change his name, the only thing he could spell was Max Power.
Right.
So I was like, well, can I be Max Power? And then I was like, wait a minute, it's got to be Maximus Power. No, wait a minute, it's got to be Sex. Like, Sex should be my middle name. So that became Maximus Sex Power. But I would come out and do this unveiling, and I was a fat guy wrestling in trunks, and I was like fully exposed for everyone to see, and I was okay with it. And doing the hip swivel and just being what I thought Maximus Sex Power should be. Like, one of my early things was I made a list of traits that I thought Maximus Sex Power should have. And one of them was like drinks rum. Like, I thought like this was a guy who drank like Captain Morgan, would go out to the bar and, and one of the other things was waxes his asshole. So the day before the first show I performed as Maximus Sex Power,
no, I
made an appointment at a waxing place to get my butthole waxed.
Whoa, living the gimmick.
Well, you know what? Like, I want to feel like I'm that character. Because to me, the most important part of a match is your entrance, because especially on the indies, you have to treat it like these people are seeing you for the first time. And it may be the only time. They don't know you. Exactly. They don't know you. It's not like I have the benefit of TV every week, so I have to treat it like I want to be that character from the second I walk out the curtain. You should be able to know what I'm all about just based on my entrance. And so I went and got my butthole waxed, and brother, that was an egregious error in judgment. I mean, there have been times when I've been hurt and had broken bones or concussions or whatever. I don't know if anything ever stung more than having these tiny little hairs ripped out of my asshole. And it was one of the most painful things. And then, like, I went home that day and I was doing the walk like Rob Lowe in Wayne's World after he got stuck by the cop.
Yeah.
And I was like, I went grab my list of Maximus sex power traits and just put a line right through the butthole wax.
I feel like there's no way you could possibly anticipate that specific kind of pain.
It was just, I mean, I had waxed things before. I'd gotten my eyebrows waxed or my back waxed, so I'm like, oh, how bad can it be? It is bad. It is terrible.
Oh my gosh. Woo.
It's a very sensitive spot. Like, like when people say they get tattoos and they're like, oh, like the ribs hurts a lot. Well, that's a spot that doesn't get exposed to anything. So you don't really have a lot of sensations to understand what it feels like when you have something different affecting that region. And that's what having your butthole waxed is like.
Well, and that's actually a good comparison because it made me think of the fact I got the first tattoo I got on the back of my calf was a nightmare. And I already had stuff on the front of my leg.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck, why is this so bad? And my artist at the time, who was a buddy of mine, fortunately. So he's the guy who's like, you're being kind of a weenie here, but it's cool because we're buddies. Like he wouldn't, he didn't give you shit for it. He's like, well, how many times have you banged your shin into something in your life? And I was like, I don't know, a bunch. He's like, how many times have you banged the back of your calf into something in your life? And I'm like, never.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's not conditioned to. It's like, what is it? The UFC guys that like smack their shins with bamboo or whatever it is. I don't know.
They toughen up they toughen up that skin. They toughen up the bones, and so when they're delivering their kicks, it makes them stronger. But they know what to expect. What kind of and. With that, like, I mean, now if you try a back kick with the back of your calf, you're going to be like, oh my God, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Not only is it awkward to look at, but now it hurts.
So I think what we've determined here is that if you're going to go and get your butthole waxed, in preparation, you need to just whack it with like a bamboo stick a ton of times to get it ready.
Get it ready. Exactly. You need to prep your butthole with bamboo.
Or if you're ever going to attack anybody with your asshole, you've got to do the bamboo preparation first.
That's that Colt Cabana flying apple type stuff.
Right. Exactly. He must do that. That must be his thing.
Maybe it is. Maybe like unbeknownst to everyone, Colt's been training by hitting himself in the asshole with bamboo all these years.
You've got to toughen it up, man. You got to be ready for that. I'm going to talk about the wrestling a little bit, and that was a good segue because. So as a kid, were you watching wrestling? Who were you watching? Like, at what point did you think, you know what, that's something I want to do?
As a kid, I was probably around 6 or 7 years old. And I remember a kid at school was like, hey, do you watch wrestling? And I was like, no, like, what is that? And he's like, dude, you got to watch it. It goes on this channel at this time on Saturday and Sunday. The WWF Superstars. And then I think Wrestling Challenge was the Sunday show. And I remember the first time I watched it, the first wrestler I ever saw was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And, they would always open with like those wide crowd shots and the welcome to Glens Falls, New York. I'm Gorilla Monsoon. And Hacksaw was the first guy to come out. And it was just like an enhancement match, a jobber match. I don't know who he wrestled, but I remember like almost like instantaneously, like I was like, yo, this is awesome. So I was like super into wrestling, like right away. My favorite guys, like I liked Hogan. He was never my favorite. I liked Macho Man. I appreciated Macho Man much more as I got older. But like I liked him then, but I didn't love the Macho Man. My guy was the Honky Tonk Man. I loved the Honky Tonk Man. I always loved gimmicks. I loved characters. I thought the Rockers were cool because they were like very different from everyone else at that time. Demolition, I thought were just completely kick ass. So like those were, I grew up during that late 80s, we're talking probably about like 88, 89 was like really like when I started getting hooked. So like WrestleMania 5 was like the first one I can remember like, oh my God, like this is going to happen. And then like I had to get like a VHS copy from some guy at school who had taped it off pay-per-view like the night before. But all the stuff like before that, like my mom used to take me to the local video store and she'd be like, all right, you can get one video, you know, and it used to be like always like the Jetsons meet the Flintstones for like the 45th time.
Right.
Because even to this day, I love the Jetsons meet the Flintstones. What a great piece of American cinema.
Well, and the thing is, like at the time, that kind of crossover was unheard
of. And that's, absolutely unheard of. And they did such a good job with blending both worlds. So that was like really, really good. But then I got into renting the old Coliseum home videotapes. So it'd be like, oh, I'd get WrestleMania 2 or Best of Hulkamania, or, you know, I remember like getting WrestleMania 4 was like a big deal because it was 2 VHS tapes. It was like, whoa, like we need this Butch Reed match on, you know, like on the tape. So that was how I got into it. And then through that was obviously I started getting the LJN figures. We're still at the time, I want to say they were probably at like series maybe like 4 or something by that point.
Okay.
But like you didn't know, like as a kid, you didn't know what series or what wave you were up to.
Dude,
you just knew what was on the shelf and what wasn't.
I miss so much the just walking into the store and finding new stuff, not having any idea when new things were coming out or what was not caring, like what was in a wave or but when we were I say when we were kids, I think I'm a little bit old. I was born in 76, so I'm
81
older, but so about the same. But like when we were kids, they kept figures in production too. Like you could always buy that one Luke Skywalker. You could always buy like the main, like there wasn't any, if I don't get to the store and get it, it's going to be gone.
Correct.
Which is why, not to get off on any kind of a tangent, but just real quick, which is why I like Mattel's top picks, because they're keeping the big guys in stock.
Yes.
Like I know people complain about like every time I walk in the store, I see AJ Styles and Roman Reigns. That's good, because when I was a kid, I would have wanted AJ Styles and Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Like I'm into that, and I wish more toy lines would do that. Like
I mean, I think you see it now with like Masters of the Universe, obviously, like
He-Man and Skeletor.
He-Man and Skeletor are the only ones you can find.
Yep.
But that also causes problems. I collected the 2000X Masters of the Universe line.
Yeah, that was,
and they basically killed the line from the overproduction of He-Man and Skeletors, and then you couldn't find anyone else.
But I think that this is being done in a different way, because what it seems like to me is that He-Man and Skeletor is one SKU and one case, and then the other figures are a separate like row of pegs, separate SKU, and they're moving in and out.
Yes.
Whereas back in the day, the 2000X, everything was coming out of the same case.
Yeah,
so and like 10 He-Mans and 8 Skeletors in a case with,
and then one Orko.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
So from what I gathered, just from like I buy a lot of stuff off Big Bad Toy Store now.
Yeah, I love them. I love them.
Yeah, they're great. And it doesn't look like He-Man and Skeletor are considered part of any singular wave.
No.
They exist in their own realm.
Well, I think they're their top picks.
Yeah, exactly. So like wave 1, like if you order wave 1 off Big Bad Toy Store, you get the Teela, you get Evelyn, Beastman, and what's the other one?
Man-at-Arms?
It might be Man-at-Arms.
Was he? I think he was.
You get those 4, but you don't get He-Man and Skeletor.
Right.
He-Man and Skeletor are just like on their own island, you know, popping through, because if you're just getting into this line, and I hope more people do get into it as the new cartoon gets ready to come out. Obviously, like Masters of the Universe is my number one like fandom. So obviously I want to support, but you need those He-Man and Skeletor, you know, toys at heart. Like we forget because we're spoiled. And as toy collectors, you become entitled.
Yeah.
You know, like
so much,
you know, Smart Mark and I did a unboxing with Ravishing Robert from Mattel with the Masters of the WWE Universe line. And that was like exactly what I was telling him. I was like, you know, like, I know this is on me because as a Masters fan, I feel very close to the product, because as far back in my memory as I can go, I have been a Masters of the Universe fan. Some of my earliest memories are Masters of the Universe, because I was probably 3 years old when that cartoon, the Filmation cartoon, first came out.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, how far back can I remember? Like, one of my earliest memories is going to Radio City Music Hall to see the Power Tour show, and they unleashed Stone Dar and Rock-On, and I thought, oh my God, they have rocks. They have rock people. Like, what a world. Like, this is phenomenal. But because of that, like I'm not on the team. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, it's like being a sports fan where you're like, you talk about it like, oh, well, we won the Super Bowl. Like, my man, you didn't do shit, but
it is like that, because without, and that's where the line gets blurry. And I think we as the customers have to sort of understand, like, these guys did what they did to get into the position where they're making the decisions, they're running the line, whatever. We did what we did to be lifelong fans and to
exactly
appreciate that. I think that's the issue. And not just with toys, but with movies, with TV shows, with
absolutely. I mean,
I think we need to get to a better spot where we're appreciating what we're getting rather than regretting not getting what we're expecting.
Correct. Or what we think we deserve.
Yeah, right. So, like, people, it's crazy to me. I love the Origins line. We're not going to get too deep into it because we got a whole episode coming up on it. But I love the Origins line. I love the colors. I love the fact that they're toys.
Yes,
right.
Very much so.
But then, and I'm just in love with this line. And then I go online and I see people complaining about, like, the face sculpts and, like, the colors. And I'm like, you guys, this line is what it is. If you don't like it, then, just don't get it. But, like, what is to be gained from being like, I can't believe they gave Skeletor this crazy O face, which, by the way, I love the face on the basic Skeletor.
I thought it was good too. I had no problem. Now I will say the original He-Man head sculpt,
not great,
not good.
I'm not going to lie, but it's one of those things where it's like, I get it. It's the first He-Man they've done.
Yes,
get a lot more He-Mans.
Exactly,
and the Battle Armor He-Man already made up for it.
The interchangeable head on the Battle Armor He-Man, so much better. So like, shut up and deal with it.
Right.
The one thing that blew my mind was I get the Battle Cat. I open up the Battle Cat. I have an unboxing up. Like real time reaction, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And I'm looking at the eyes painted on the helmet. I'm like, this adds so much in personality, in like just those eyes, that stupid little thing, like those eyes added so much. And then when I pop the helmet off and I see the articulation on the jaw, which was something I would have never expected or hoped for, but then I have it and I'm like, this is so cool. And then I go online and everyone's like, oh, well, it's got no ankle articulation, so it's a no-go for me.
You're crazy. You're out of your mind. What are you doing with this? Because this is was it 25 or I think it was 25.
I think it was $24.99. Yeah.
$25 for this Battle Cat that's a billion times better than the Battle Cat that was around when we were kids.
Oh my, that Battle Cat has nothing.
It's a statue.
Yes.
And we've got this great, like, look, I've got the Classics Battle Cat and it's beautiful, but like, I paid twice as much for that.
Exactly. This is a retail release.
Is a great toy.
I thought it was like having it in my hands and being able to move the tail and the jaw articulation, and it bends at the, there is articulation on the legs, but the fact that there was no ankle articulation was driving people nuts. And I'm going
crazy to me.
You have, this is 2021 and we are getting Masters of the Universe figures and G.I. Joe Masters of the Universe at retail. You can walk into a store and find two of the most giant staples of your childhood sitting on a shelf. Like the nostalgia that comes to me every time I walk in and see a He-Man figure on a shelf. It's amazing. And I can't help but smile every time. And you want to complain about ankle articulation on a Battle Cat? Look how much they gave you.
It's craziness. It's craziness. I'm glad you brought up that Battle Cat, because I think that was the unboxing video I watched where you talked about how you were an MOC guy, men on card guy,
Oh, that's actually the He-Man one.
Oh, is it the He-Man one?
It was.
We have to talk about this because I remember watching this video and you're talking about your heart breaking because you're opening it up, but you gotta open it up. You gotta see.
Yeah.
And now though, you're opening stuff up left and right.
Yeah. So
where did your because I've all my life I've been an open it up guy. Or let him breathe, if you will.
Yeah.
I want to get them in my hands. I want to pose them. I want to see how, if it's a NECA toy, I want to see how fast it's going to be for me to break it. If it's I want to pose it. I want to play with it. But every once in a while, there's something that the packaging is really awesome, or maybe I want to get it signed or whatever, that I'll leave it in the box. But for the most part, everything I've got is just out and open. But you said that you were at heart
very much a mint on card guy.
Where did your sea change come in?
So I'm trying to think. Probably the late
around
90s.
The time of that. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. Probably the late 90s. I had gotten out of wrestling for a while, and then like when the Attitude Era kicked in, I went full bore back into wrestling.
Yeah,
buying up everything. And at that time, I was collecting everything mint on card. And it was wrestling and Kenner starting lineup figures for me. And I would keep everything mint on card because I'm like, oh, value. Like, and I thought it was cool.
Okay.
I thought it was cool because I had a buddy from high school who the first time I like went to his house to hang out, he was a wrestler. He became like my wrestling friend in high school. So the first time I went to his house, he had like probably like the last 3 or 4 series of Hasbro WWE figures mint on card and like hanging on the wall with like push pins. And that was like something I had never considered, like that have that kind of display. So when I saw him have that, I was like, whoa, like that's awesome. Like, so basically from then on, I wanted to keep everything mint on card for not only value, but because I thought the idea of displaying like that hanging wall display of figures looked so cool. Then 2000X He-Man comes out. And my thing is, oh, these are like new. They're never going to be worth anything. So let's open them up and set it. So I had like this.
And you weren't totally wrong.
No, they are
still pretty affordable.
Yes, they're still pretty affordable, but they are recently starting to pick up.
Well, and specific characters too are
absolutely like that repackage with the Snake Men packaging has gone through the roof, and then the blood red Skeletor I see is a big one now. But at that time I was just like, oh, no one is ever gonna, these are never gonna be worth anything. So I would open them up, and it was the first thing I ever like set a display for.
Yeah. So
I had my Castle Grayskull, and then I had my Panther, my Battle Cat. I'd set the scene with the heels coming from this side, the baby faces on the other side. And then I'd get like a little weird, like I'd get like a Rob Van Dam figure and just like kind of slide him into the mix for no reason. And I'd be like, whose side is he on? And then like once I, like that was like the one thing, because I was like, oh, this will never be worth anything, whatever. Then I got out of collecting almost like as a whole for a while, because I had moved. I had basically sold everything I ever owned, and I had nothing. And with I started buying Funko Pops, because I thought Funko Pops were a cheap way to collect all of my fandoms. All have the same scale. You know, John Cena can hang out with Skeletor, who can hang out with RoboCop, who can hang out with Blanche from the Golden Girls. What a time. So that was like my way, because it was cheap, it was affordable, and I could have all the characters. I never thought, once again, I go back to this, financially, I never thought I would be in a position to collect like real stuff or go back and buy vintage He-Man and whatever. So then like more and more I start like hanging out with fucking Brian. Like, oh, but don't you need this? And don't you need this? And I'd buy like a little something here or there. Like I'd buy like the Super 7 He-Man and Skeletor 2-pack, you know, that they were doing on the Filmation base. I'd be like, oh, you know what? That looks really cool. And I have like a cool little He-Man and Skeletor. So I'd just have that, put it to the side. I love She-Ra. So I buy the She-Ra and Hordak one. Then I start buying the Masters reaction figures that Super 7 did. And I love the packaging on them, the artwork that's done, because even as a kid, the artwork on the Masters packaging was a huge selling point.
Yeah.
You'd walk down that aisle of Toys R Us, you'd see something like Castle Grayskull and the battle scene taking place, and right away, like, it's in your head how to play with these things, and who should be fighting, who's matched up. Like, even on the box, you see He-Man and Skeletor matched up with each other, like paired off, and then like Fisto's in the background, like going at it with Clawful.
Well, and that's a huge part of why the Origin stuff is so appealing, because I just opened the Land Shark up the other day.
I just got mine,
dude. The art is gorgeous.
Yep.
But then you look at it and you've got like Fisto and Trapjaw, like almost little Easter eggs in there of like, well, these guys are coming soon. Well, we know Trapjaw's already out, but like Fisto's on the way. Like, just all the little things in the art that they're working in there. And on that Land Shark, the first thing I saw was like, oh, well, there's a Snake Mountain in the background.
Yep.
And would they put a Snake Mountain on this packaging if they didn't have plans for an Origin Snake Mountain? I don't know.
I mean, a little birdie that I asked at Mattel would
you got it in.
Well, now I do. It's funny, you know, like, for having a famous friend, but now like I get to do like some cool stuff like out of the blue, which still is weird to me. But it is so like I'm very thankful like that I can have like a conversation with one of the caretakers of my biggest fandom. And I did ask about that, and he didn't say no, he didn't say yes.
Sure.
But he did say if they could find a price point that works and the line continues to do well, then it's definitely on the table. I would think that it's doing well, because when I go into a store, everything looks pretty sold out to me, you know, except those, they do have their He-Man peg and their Skeletor peg.
The top picks are always there.
Yep. But the Battle Cat is always there.
When the new guy, when Ninjor and Triclops and who She-Ra come in, they're gone quick.
I just got my Wave 4 in yesterday from Big Bad Toy Store.
Is that Triclops and Ninjor?
Triclops, Ninjor.
Just got mine today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, when we're done, I think I'm gonna film them. Okay, so it was them and Ram Man, but no Clamp Champ yet. Have you got Clamp Champ yet?
I haven't gotten my Clamp Champ yet.
I wonder if he's running a little bit behind, because I think he was supposed to be with Ram Man in the same way.
I thought so too.
That He-Man and Skeletor in the battle armor were together.
Yeah. So, but when this series started coming out, to get back to the original question, now that I've gone on a diatribe for
that's what we do here.
But this is just the way like my mind works and how I've collected over the years. So up until this point, I had always been a mint on card guy. So I started buying the reaction figures because I felt like it was cheap enough for me to go out and be a completist about it.
Yeah.
And have the cool artwork. But I never thought I'd get to the point where I could afford to do anything bigger or, you know, but then like you sit there and I'm watching people I know have these badass collections and these setups. And I'm like, oh my God. And it makes you itchy. And then like you start dipping your toe in the water a little bit and then a little more. And then it was like the first time I ever went into the VIP room at a strip club. It sounds like absurd. Like, oh my God, it cost how much? But then once you do it once, it makes it that much easier.
You're like,
to do
how do I go back? How do I go back and sit out there?
Why would I not go VIP from now on? Like, like I don't know if you are a Danhausen fan.
Okay, so I've only recently become aware of Danhausen.
I think he's spectacular.
Ring of Honor put up like a video, a sort of quick "Who is Danhausen" thing, and I was like, "What is?" Because I'm such a dick. Every time I see something, and look, this is what makes no sense about me. I fucking love gimmicks. I love anything that's a gimmick. But anytime I see something that is clearly an over-the-top gimmick, my gut reaction is, what the fuck is this? Which is so ridiculous.
And you're not the only, that's wrestling fans as a whole.
We're awful.
You want new and you want different until someone gives it to you. And then you go, what the fuck is this?
Right.
I want another Roderick Strong doing the same 15 arm drags.
Right. And I love Roderick Strong, but he's always going to be Roderick Strong. And sometimes I need a melted fiend. You know what I mean? So the Danhausen, the picture pops up and I'm like, I know how I am. I need to stop being a dick and look at this video. And I see the video of him like, I am very nice but evil, or whatever his deal is. And I was like, oh, this guy's great. I love this guy. Come on.
He's the best. And his YouTube is great too, because he's putting out all these videos of just him doing character work, especially with the quarantine, where you couldn't go out and do shows every week. He was doing a ton of YouTube stuff. So there's like one recent one where all of a sudden, like, Danhausen's mission is just that he wants to be rich. And he wants to be rich and famous and powerful and have enough money to buy a solid gold house and a rocket car. That's the Danhausen mission statement. So if you've never seen Danhausen, that's what he's about. And he's kind of a cross between Mr. Burns and Pee Wee Herman, but he's a demon for some strange King Diamond corpse paint. Yes. But he recently did this video where he's just sitting at like a card table with like wrapped stacks of money. And he's like, Danhausen has his millions of dollars. So now we go to Burger King. And like the guy in the background's like, can I get onion rings? And Danhausen goes, look how rich I am. I don't care. You can all have onion rings. And
see, and that's, man, that's what I miss. I miss... we're in such a weird place with wrestling right now because kayfabe is destroyed.
Yeah.
But like, we need these characters. You were talking earlier about Love and Honky Tonk Man. And like, when you're kids, those gimmicks are what you latch on to. You don't latch on to, and like I said, I love Roderick Strong. I think he's a badass wrestler, but no kid is going to look at a Roderick Strong match and be like, I love wrestling. Like, it's just not.
Even when I was wrestling and I'm Maximus Sex Power, fat, ravishing Rick Rude, and you have an entire indie show full of Roderick Strongs, who listen, and they're all talented and athletic, and I don't want to like shit on everybody, but at the same time, how do you differentiate any of them? They're all wearing the same tights, the same haircut, the same beard, the same tribal tattoo, and then I come out and be a fat guy who does a hip swivel. And when that crowd leaves, who do they remember? Do they remember the 11 guys who did the exact same thing? Or do they remember the one fat guy who danced? Yep. Because I'll never forget one time going through TSA at the airport, and the woman, the TSA agent, looks at me. She goes, "Are you a wrestler?" And I was like, "Yes, ma'am, I am." She goes, "I knew it. I take my kids to the Elks Lodge every month. You're the boy who gets naked and dances." And I said, awesome. That is exactly who I am.
That is me. That's on my business card.
I'm the boy who gets naked and dances.
That's awesome.
But obviously, like, she couldn't care less about wrestling, but it was something her kids enjoyed. She took them, and that stood out to her.
Yeah.
So when you're there, I mean, I'm just trying to put smiles on faces,
And that's, I love, I love me a good work rate match. I'm not going to lie, but man, you gotta have fun too. It can't be knees to the face all the time.
My thing is, I think a lot of that comes from the end of the Attitude Era, where that's when being a smart fan really took hold, because we were the first generation with the internet. Yeah. So every single, and I'm guilty of the same thing. Like, oh, fuck Stone Cold. All he does is punch and kick. Chris Benoit should be the champion of everything. So all of us grew up thinking Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. And look, these guys are great. But now that whole generation, became those guys. And meanwhile, now I'm sitting here going, man, I really miss Sid Vicious about now.
Right. And you're not wrong. Like, that's, it's funny. I'm a huge fan of Big E.
Yeah.
Love Big E. And a few months ago on their podcast, he just threw out sort of randomly, like, that he wanted a match with Goldberg and that he loved big sweaty men slapping meat. And you know what? There's not enough of that. It's too much. And look, I love, like I said, I dudes that can work are awesome. But I also want to see two big jacked dudes, or one fat dude and one jacked dude, just smacking the shit out of each other, but with some kind of personality attached.
Correct.
Some kind of uniqueness, some kind of gimmick. Like, when WWE brings Goldberg back, I'm not mad. I get it. Because he's fucking Goldberg.
Yeah.
I get it.
Like, no one's gonna sit there and tell you Goldberg is, like Dean Malenko.
No,
but at the same time, he's fucking Goldberg.
Right. Nobody else is.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There's a dozen dudes that can do all kinds of shit on the mat and that can do that move that everybody does now where they grab the rope and do the kick over the top rope or dive through the middle. I could die happy if I never again see anybody dive through the fucking middle ropes. Oh, my gosh, could we stop that? But like, if I see some big jack dude screaming and yelling and slapping his chest and coming out ready to just pound somebody, yeah, give it to me.
Absolutely. It's one of those things. It's a generational thing. Just like, back in the Attitude Era, wrestling fans who were our age now, but back then, thought everything then sucked and they liked it better the year before. And the generation then liked remember Harley Race was ruining the business when he did a superplex. So
yeah, right.
Wrestling changes, but the world stays the same.
Yeah.
But getting back to the original question, which is now I saw everybody's collection all set up with being loose figures. And I wanted to feel rich. I never thought I'd be able to afford like really diving into it. And then it turned out like, you know what? Like, I keep playing this thing like I'm broke, and I'm actually not. Like, I'm actually doing okay. So I would dip in a little harder, a little faster. And then when Origins came out, I wasn't finding them in stores, but I would get lucky on the Walmart pre-order.
Yes.
So I was getting lucky on those. And then you'd have Walmart shipping. And I'd open that box and the cards were like, the figures were just pushed in. The cards were bent in half. So I was getting all these figures that were mangled, and I'm like,
they would literally like fold the card.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just like, oh my God, like as a mint on card collector, I cannot,
no,
under no circumstance. It's not like I bought some 40-year-old figure that's okay. It's got some wear to be expected. Like, this is a brand new figure. I cannot keep this mint on card looking like this.
No.
So I decided, you know what, like, I'm going to do some unboxing videos and just have fun with it. Not like I know how to do unboxing videos. Obviously, I've watched yours. I've watched Brian do them. I've watched Pixel Dan, all these guys who do them. And I'm like, well, no one's going to watch me because they already have the people that they go to for this stuff. But you know what? I'm having fun with it. And if people watch, they watch. And then I started holding these figures in my hand. And I'm like, man, this is cool to just hold figures in my hand again. And then like I start thinking, oh, you know how I can display this? I could do like this. Or maybe when the Grayskull comes out, I can make like a little setup where it's perched, and I could buy like some like AstroTurf or something and make like a thing around it. That way they're fighting up a hill. And I was like, oh my God, like, am I a Let It Breathe guy now? And then once I started opening a couple, I'm like, well, now I have to open them all. Yeah. Like I can't just have 3 figures open and the rest like. So I started opening everything, but I did make the one concession I did make to myself is that I will keep one of every He-Man and one of every Skeletor mint on card. So that's my plan right now. But then I'll get something like the Land Shark, for instance. Land Shark comes in and the packaging, the artwork is spectacular. And I'm looking at it. I go, I don't really want to open this.
Yeah.
I'm like,
but you have to open it because, dude, I think, the review went up this week. When you roll it and that jaw starts going, conk, you have to open it. You got to open it. Now
I do.
And I had trouble, throwing the box away.
Oh, I believe it easily.
And I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't keep this box. I can't. And look, this is my stupid dilemma. I collect the Super 7 stuff, and their packaging is insanely beautiful.
Yep.
I right now I've got a stack almost as tall as me of freaking Super 7 boxes that I can't bear to throw out.
Oh.
But I have to. I can't keep these things.
It's an issue, and it's at some point like you make cuts, you have to change the way you collect, you buy, because like there's only so much space, and it becomes a real thing. And that's one of like the saving graces with this or opening these Origins for me is like, well, it takes up a lot less space.
Yeah.
If I, right now, like I'm kind of in the process of moving, so I don't really have too much displayed. So I'm just bagging and stashing for a while. But I just like, the Sky Sled with Prince Adam. When I got that thing was so spectacular in the package that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to open this one quite yet. I'm going to order another one, and then I'll keep whichever one looks better. But now I have to open one, because I'm like, now I need a Sky Sled, but like I just holding that in my hand, like the space artwork they did around it and everything. I was like, man, this is just so cool. And it makes me happy as a Masters fan because the artwork is so important and so integral to the packaging and the overall appearance and feel of the Masters line.
If they hadn't nailed the artwork for the Origins line, I would not be as invested as I am in it.
Oh, 100%. I agree with that 100%. And Pixel Dan, he's got a book coming out. I think it's scheduled to be released in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Which is the history of Masters toys.
And I believe, unless I'm mistaken, you've got a few words in that book.
I don't have a few words. I have my name is under the special thanks portion of it.
Well, there you go.
Super random.
That's crazy.
I don't know Pixel Dan, like personally, like we've interacted on Twitter or whatever a couple times. Sure. But just randomly, wake up, I'm making coffee, checking Twitter. Pixel Dan is asking if anybody has an original Spydor box because he needs one to take pictures of for a book that he's working on. So I have a Spydor, complete inbox, not mint. Oh my
gosh.
And I picked it up at a on a Facebook auction, like super cheap. So, and it was with all the inserts and the stickers aren't even peeled off the sheet. Oh my
gosh.
So I think at some point I'm going to put it together. I just haven't yet. I don't know if I want to or just buy a loose one. I don't know.
Yeah, get a loose one. I saw something earlier today. This was a G.I. Joe figure. A dude was talking about, he got a G.I. Joe figure like mint on card at some flea market or something for like $10. And, I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's amazing. And then he went on and was like, so yeah, I brought it home and opened it up. I was like, why did you open it? Just get a Lucy.
Yeah.
Just get another one. Why would you open it?
So I took pictures of my Spydor. I sent it over to Dan and I said, is this like what you're looking for? He's like, I'm not going to say my box is perfect, but it's in good condition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's in really good condition. So he's like, that would be great. He's like, listen, he's like, I'll pay the shipping if you can send it to me. He's like, and I can give you a thanks in my book. And I was like, yeah, like great, like whatever. So he posted the picture of like the thank you and acknowledgement page, like last week or something. And to see my name, like in that kind of thing. And I don't know if you've bought any of the other, like Dark Horse hardcover.
I've got them all.
So do I. And they are, I mean, each one is wonderful. They make for great display pieces. The paper they use it's a very high quality product, and the comprehensiveness of it is so wonderful. And just to see my name like on that special thanks page of a master, like a real deal Masters of the Universe project.
It's a literal piece of Masters of the Universe history.
Yeah. And
it is.
And like, as I looked at that, like, and this is going to sound, for something so small, like all I did was let this guy borrow a box. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like I was involved in this any way, nor would I ever act like I was. I just let Pixel Dan borrow a box. But there's my name on a Masters product, like a comprehensive product and I started I sat down when I saw that for the first time and I was like remembering like my mom taking me to Toys R Us and remembering my dad coming home from work, like smelling like fish because he worked in a fish store, but like laying down on the floor and being Skeletor as I was He-Man, and I remember like meeting He-Man and Skeletor at like a toy store meet and greet in like 1984 or something. And I was like overcome with all these memories. And I was like, how cool is this? Like, because like you said, that's genuine Masters of the Universe history. Yes. The book is all about the toys, and so much of my life and my existence can be connected back to the Masters of the Universe figures. And like, I don't know, like when I say like you're entitled, whatever, like you feel like you're part of it. Now I actually I'm part of it. Like that's awesome. I don't want to say it was like a bucket list item. I didn't know if like obviously I never thought like something like that was like, oh, I'm gonna have my name in a master's book one day, but like just seeing it was like for something so small, it's like something like really cool, and I feel like it's special.
It is special. It absolutely is, and that's why people who may not understand why we're such big collectors, why we get so invested in these things that we do, it's because it's a little piece of the story of our life, and it's this comfort that we can have. Anytime I want, I can come down here and look at my G.I. Joe shelves and kind of reminisce back through different stages of my life of G.I. Joe and where it's been. And like, it's our sort of personal narrative. And with it being our current collections, it's right there in a physical form.
And especially at our ages now, to go back and have all of these properties that we loved as kids still exist with new items. And the way I compartmentalize like my fandom is I try to remember like what kind of theme birthday party did I have as a kid.
Yeah.
So at 4 years old, I was all into Masters. So I had a He-Man party. At 5 years old, I had a Thundercats party. At 6 years old, I had a G.I. Joe party. 7 years old, I had a wrestling party. At 8 years old, I had a Simpsons party. And you just remember like all these different stages, and like here we are 30 something years later, and you can go out today and buy He-Man, you can buy G.I. Joe, you can buy Thundercats. Like it's amazing that these things have had that kind of impact, and the fandom is still there to support these projects. I mean, I'm really happy it is, because I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I love the Super 7 Ultimate Thundercats. They are beautiful figures. I'm not as in love with G.I. Joe Classified.
Look, I'll be honest, I'm not either. And I'm actually potentially getting to sort of a tipping point with those, because right now I'm so into rebuilding my vintage G.I. Joe collection.
Yeah.
And every time I see a new classified figure, I'm like, well, that's $20. But what could I put $20 towards from what I had when I was a kid? Like that's the decisions I'm making right now. And I'm not bailing on classified yet, but another little facet of that is Mezco just showed that 112 collective Destro.
Yep.
And I'm like, shit, do I even need these classified figures? Because look, I'm patient, man. I can take, it's not like they're pumping classified figures out all that fast anyway.
They really aren't.
So, Joe, we got to wrap it up.
All right.
We have had a phenomenal conversation. We can absolutely continue this another time, because I think we've got a ton more to talk about toys, food, and wrestling. I would love, if you're willing, I'd love to have you back for our Big Masters of the Universe Origins episode.
Sure.
Where we will break down the line thus far, probably about a month from now.
And anytime you want, I'm around.
Well, before we go, what are you up to? Tell us where you are online again. Let us know where we can follow Joe Shoes and your ongoing adventures as a man of taste.
Yeah, I'm for a person that's never done anything, I'm one of the most interesting people alive. So you can follow my exploits on Twitter and Instagram at the Joe Shoes. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/Joe Shoes. And I'll have some stuff coming up with Smart Mark from the Major Pod again. We'll be getting together soon to do a unboxing of Wave 6 of Masters of the WWE Universe with Ravishing Robert from Mattel. And if you haven't watched the last one, that's up on the Major Pod YouTube channel. It's not just the unboxing of those figures, because Ravishing Robert is a massive He-Man fan himself. So him and I tend to steer the conversation into very nerdy Masters of the Universe talk. So there's that for you if you like it. And I'll be doing more food videos. Right now I'm in the middle of trying to eat as many chicken sandwiches as possible and just comparing and contrasting all the benefits.
And you are going to be making a rare wrestling appearance coming up soon. Put that over before we go.
FWF Live, April 8th, patreon.com/FWF Live, I believe it is. Brian and Matt running a wrestling show, and they called me up and they said, "Hey, we want to book you for this wrestling show." And I thought it was a rib, because why would anybody book me for a wrestling show at this point in my life? It was not a rib, it turns out. And I know Matt has been saying it's the comedy match. It's a four corners match with me, Max Smashmaster, Philip Cardigan, and Slade. And listen, it's a comedy match, but I am not treating it as such, because if I'm going to go and make this appearance, like, yeah, we'll have some laughs and some chuckles, but we're going to make this as good as possible. I know everyone on the show is really committed to, putting out a really good product. I'm excited to be a part of it. And I think probably it's going to be one of those things I look back on in a couple of years and say, you know what? It's really cool I got to do this.
Yeah, 100%. I'm super stoked to see the show. And it's funny because at one point they've said that, no, we're not going to compete with the NXT thing. But at one point I was like, well, I guess I'm watching FWF and not NXT. I mean, obviously in this day and age, there's no choosing anymore. Correct. But as far as watching stuff live, like, we still have to make choices. And I was like, I guess it's FWF.
FWF is going to be a lot of fun. And if you're a merch person, the bundle package that they have going on, with the I think they're going to make all of us sign 8x10s, and I think there's like a special one where they're going to make us sign like one turnbuckle, and and then the exclusive micro brawler, which you don't have to be a major wrestling podcast fan to want the micro brawler.
Well, and micro brawlers are, here's my thing. I am a 100% not buying any micro brawlers guy. Can't do it. Didn't, as much as I love the whole Stomp in Paradise concept. And that's the, I've got the Stomp in Paradise figures of the guys. That's my favorite, like, major pod thing. It's like, I'm not buying the Stomp in Paradise micro brawlers. I'm not getting into that because we talked about it earlier in the show, Joe. Once
you crack the seal.
And today, do you know what I'm doing today? I'm sitting here looking at damn Kevin Nash Super Shredder micro brawler.
Isn't that phenomenal?
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know that was a thing. And then I saw the pictures the other day. And then there's the chase with the
purple one.
Oh
my gosh.
So phenomenal. And let me tell you a quick Stomp in Paradise story.
Okay.
So when they started Stomp in Paradise, first of all, that's where I think the show became a hit. Like when Brian first did the Stomp in Paradise thing, that's the thing that made it stand out to me, where it was like, this is something that every kid who has ever played with toys can relate to.
Exactly.
Completely just coming up with something wild, ridiculous. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it is something down the line.
Well, that's the point where you realize the guys are legit.
Yeah.
That this isn't just like speculators talking about old toys.
Yes.
When he shared that, and you were like, oh, he's one of us.
I always said that. I think that was the turning point where the show became a fun little show about two guys, who still collect and enjoy toys. But that's the one where it became like, no, these guys are like super fucking nostalgic collectors, just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
But then they filmed the video where it was like an opening credit scene of them on the beach and explosions going off.
Yes, it's so good.
So I was trying to politic my way into the Stomp in Paradise universe. Of
course, how would you not?
So I came up with a character called Spencer Latta, whose code name was Sizz. And he was an evil guy who used to design the card backs for your favorite toys. And now, because of the Stomp in Paradise guys encouraging everyone to let them breathe, they toss away his life's work like it ain't no thing.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
And so I wanted to be the villain, and I would try to get back at Matt and Brian for encouraging people to let them breathe. And on the podcast this week, Brian actually brings that up.
I heard it. You're too nice.
I'm too nice to be a bad guy. I was like, where did that come from? But my name was going to be Spencer Latta, a.k.a. Sizz. And it was Spencer because that was Hogan's name in Thunder in Paradise.
Right.
Latta is from Chris Latta, who did the voice of two of my favorite Cobra Commander and Starscream.
Starscream.
Two of the best chicken shit heels in the history of the business.
Absolutely.
And then Sizz was the nickname because my favorite restaurant in the entire world is the Sizzler.
Sizzler.
Like if I could get married tomorrow, I would want the reception to be at the Sizzler. Corn fritters for everybody. Malibu chicken across the board. Man. That's my so that I posted a picture on my Instagram yesterday once I heard the episode, and I was like, I'm too nice. Like what? I was like, they killed off my character already. I never even got to debut. Like I went out and bought like army clothes, like and camouflage stuff. And I was like, oh man, and I'll never get to use it now.
Well, Joe, I hate to tell you, but I got to agree with Brian. You are far too nice a guy to be a villain. Thank you for coming on the Needless Things podcast. You're going to be back soon. I'll tell you right now.
Absolutely.
It's been a great conversation, man. I appreciate it.
This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
You know, as much as I enjoy our like roundtable episodes where we'll review, you know, a movie or whatever, or the needless commentaries, or we'll focus on a toy line, or we'll have, you know, something like that. My favorite episodes are the ones where I sit down with somebody and we have a conversation. I love that. I love a natural progression where you jump from topic to topic and you organically see where the conversation goes. And yeah, we had some bullet points and some specific items to talk about because that was Joe's stuff. But I like just seeing where you end up. And there are a few things that I had notes on that we ended up not talking about, and that's fine because Joe is 100% going to be back. But those are the kinds of podcasts that I really enjoy listening to, where you just are hearing two people and just where their minds go. So that's the ones that I really enjoy making as well. But there are other kinds of podcasts, and we do them here on the Needless Things podcast. And next week will be the newest Needless Commentary. And I actually don't even know what it is yet. I need to get with Ryan. I believe it's our pal Ryan Cadaver's pick next month, or this month, since it is his birthday month. I need to find out what we're going to be watching so I can watch it, because I really don't want to have to fake it. Okay, so this is a thing people do. Real quick. They will fake watch something and then do a podcast about it. I'm not going to name any names, but I am well aware that this has happened on podcasts I have been on, and there's only one person that's ever fooled me with it, that I had no idea that this person had not watched the thing we were discussing. So kudos to them, but I don't do that. I watch it. You get the real deal from me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. I love you guys.
You have been listening to a Needless Things podcast. You can follow Needless Things on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at needlessthingspodcast.com. Love you. Mean it. Uh-huh.